This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Of course, the Tony Humby trial in provincial court here in St. John's was set to resume this morning. Of course, one of its key lawyers, Mr. Humby's his defence lawyer, Mark Rushy, was on the defence team for Dean Penny, which just wrapped up that first-degree murder trial in Corner Brook yesterday with the guilty verdict, of course, for first-degree murder. And now the Humby trial is going to be delayed somewhat as a result, of course, Mr. Rushy being obviously tied up with the first-degree murder trial. They had to find some accommodation there. But that works right a bit into the segue of our next caller, and we welcome Colin to the air. Good morning, Colin. How are you doing?
Good morning, Brian. How are you? I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah, great. It's good to hear. How's it going? What's on your mind if I ask rhetorically?
I want to talk about the Mr. Big sting operations in general. I don't want to get into the particulars of the Dean Penny case because the matter is still before the court.
Absolutely.
And there's going to be a sentencing hearing in November, and I have no doubt there will be an appeal. So I'm not going to get into that. But just about the Mr. Big sting operations just in general. And I can reference Nelson Hart case too, and that went to the Supreme Court of Canada, and they set down guidelines for these sting operations, for police to use these sting operations in Canada. But I think we in this matter with the Mr. Big sting operations in this country, I think we got to look south of the border to the American criminal jurisprudence there. And in the United States, these Mr. Big sting operations are prohibited in that country. And I think it's about time we did the same thing in this country, that we get rid of these type of police operations. They run the risk of getting false confessions. And innocent people end up getting convicted of crimes that they did not commit, and usually these are very serious charges that people are facing, like murder, and you could end up spending the rest of your life in prison for a crime that you did not in fact commit.
Absolutely, and we just keep in mind here, of course, that there was a guilty verdict yesterday by a jury of peers, and the family, of course, keep them in our minds today, because in the eyes of the justice, Mr. Penny has been found guilty until another court should find otherwise. So certainly do not want to diminish or take away from the verdict that was found yesterday, but there is a process. And as you said, there are appeals that are still able here, which is what happened in the Nelson Hart trial. Now, you mentioned that, the guardrails and that sort of thing. That was specifically what was tightened up after the Nelson Hart trial, because he was convicted and then acquitted by the Supreme Court of Canada, which did make the rules and guidelines a little tighter and change them. Didn't outlaw the Mr. Big, template in general, but did say that there are, going directly to your point, that it is possible to come up with false confessions when basically you're telling a person a bunch of lies and then expecting the truth in return. To me, it's completely counterintuitive. And when the legitimacy of what you're telling that person is not true, it's all false, and then you press and press and press, and then this guy thinks, well, I either have to tell the truth and I can stay alive and stay safe and continue on with this incredibly luxurious lifestyle I've somehow just fallen into, or tell them the truth, whatever that might be, and if it's not what they want to hear, then you're still in debt, in danger. So, until I would caution everyone, these cases are very intricate, and all of the detail, what it's like, Colin, if you can miss one fact, and that could change the context of what you're understanding. So I would encourage people to try to read up as much as you can on facts on these cases before passing judgment, because really 99% of us do not have access to all of the facts that went before that jury. So we can pass opinion, but factual judgment is another dangerous road.
That's right. Just as a matter of correcting the record there, Nelson Hart was not acquitted by the Supreme Court of Canada. His case was sent back for a retrial, and the Crown decided not to prosecute him again.
Thank you. It didn't go again, yes. But he ended up free of his conviction.
Yes, he was. It was overturned by the Newfoundland Court of Appeal.
Mm-hmm. And upheld. Sorry.
And upheld. That's right. But the whole thing is, and you're absolutely right, that the target of the investigation by police, initially the police don't have reasonable and probable grounds to arrest a person and lay a charge. they can be highly suspicious of the person, that this person committed a murder, but they don't have any reasonable probable grounds to make an arrest. So they turn around and create this elaborate sting operation, posing as organized crime individuals, mobsters, and for the police to turn around and say, "Oh, we're not going to overtly threaten someone, or even give the impression that we're threatening somebody." That's just BS. You're dragging this person, the target of the investigation, into this operation. Everybody in this operation is an undercover police officer. You're giving this person, the target, the impression that you're posing as mobsters. This person is going to think that if I don't tell them what they want to hear, which is not necessarily the truth, they're going to end up, killing me or severely injuring me because they're mobsters. So for the police to turn around and say, "Oh no, we didn't threaten him. We just wanted him to tell the truth." The police start off with tunnel vision. They believe this person, say committed a murder. They don't have any independent evidence, DNA or anything, or fingerprints or any forensics to corroborate their investigation. So they start off this investigation under the premise that this person committed a murder. They're not going into this with an open mind. They're totally convinced this person did something. And when the person initially says they did nothing, and they keep repeating that, and the police say, "Tell us the truth, tell us the truth, tell us the truth," and the person arguably is telling the truth, that they had nothing to do with it, and as you quite rightly point out, eventually it gets to the point that the person who's the target is going to say, if I keep telling them this, they're going to get PO'd with me. And what's going to happen to me then? Because they're mobsters. They're going to get PO'd with me, and they're going to hurt me or kill me. So I'm going to tell them now, yeah, I killed her, or I killed him, or I killed my son, my daughter, And this is going to eventually get in front of a trier of fact, a judge or a jury, and then you're in a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah, and
you potentially... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and they changed the story. I mean, what you're referring to, again, we're not talking about the Penny trial, but in the Nelson Hart trial, he continued to change his story then to make it better for the crime bosses. You start adding stuff and removing stuff, whether it's some of the detail in this case, but I mean, if you're not sure they're happy or content or believing what you say, you'll change details. But when the story changes, that should even be another red flag,
Yeah. And, a very good point about the big Mr. Big sting operation to distinguish the Hart case from the Brian Doyle case. The police in the Doyle case, as you well know...
just to be clear, this is the Greg Parsons case you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. The police had DNA belonging to Mr. Doyle at the crime scene, and it was highly incriminating. But the police launched an undercover sting operation, located him in Ontario, and set up a sting operation there to get him to voluntarily confess to what he did. Mm-hmm. But there was independent evidence to corroborate that. In the case of Nelson Hart, there was nothing. His two daughters drowned. It was tragic, yes.
That's right.
And he said right at the beginning he had nothing to do with it. He had a seizure or something, and his daughters ended up in Gander Lake. And
there were no other suspects, no alternate suspects or anyone. Yep. That's
right. And there was no eyewitnesses to what happened or anything like that. And the police in that case did not believe him. It's a pattern here of police zoning in on somebody with no independent evidence to corroborate that. And they go in with tunnel vision that this person has, committed a murder or some other crime, and that's what they want to hear. And if the target repeatedly states that they didn't do anything, that they're innocent, they don't know what happened, that could be the truth. They don't want to hear that. So when the person eventually turns around and lies and says, "Yes, I killed this person," or "I did this," and they admit criminal liability to the police, now that becomes the truth.
Colin, only because I'm running out of time here, I just wanted to ask you what you thought of the backslapping and high fives that the RCMP officers were giving each other when the verdict was read.
Completely unprofessional. And right at the beginning of this case, when this case started and they arrested Mr. Penny, I'm not going to talk about the particulars of the trial now, but they held a police conference a press conference, and he said this was a case of intimate partner violence, highly prejudicial. Highly prejudicial for a police force to say that. He had just been charged at that time, and he was presumptively innocent of that charge.
And last thing, I know the Nelson Hart trial cost just a little over $500,000. Yesterday, the RCMP said, quote, they couldn't quite put a number on it, but it was the most expensive in history. I'm hearing several million. Again, your thoughts?
You know, I don't really want to comment on that, Brian, because that would be getting into the particulars of the case.
Sure.
I'm not trying to duck your question or anything like that.
It's okay.
But I will say, with the back slapping and high fiving, it's great to do that when somebody else is in the dock. Put your own ass in the dock. See if the police will do a high five and slap each other on the back when you're going to prison for the rest of your life.
Colin, I appreciate the call.
Thanks, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Right to line number 1. And caller, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent.
I'm calling about motor registration. Okay, we're all seniors. And once you passes 80, you got to go twice every second year for a medical. So if the doctor says, well, you don't pass your medical, but you go and get another driver's test, right?
Right, yeah, the first medical exam, I think, requirement is at 75, but you're right, after 80, you have to go every 2 years, right?
Yes, that's right, yeah. So anyway, but what they do, we're in Port aux Basques, they take us to Stephenville. Now, I don't know nothing about Stephenville. And they'll take you into Stephenville, and you get aboard the car, and whoever does it, they takes you to 3 or 4 different streets. And then they say, now turn around and go back the same way you came. Now, that's impossible. If you don't know where you're going. Sorry for the people in Stephenville, they knows the streets. But when you're in your 80s and then got to go and say, now go back the same way you came, you're not going to remember which way you come.
So you're telling me they want you to remember which way you came and they're not going to give you directions on how to get back? That shouldn't be part of the test. Part of the test is the actual rules of the road, not necessarily your memory of a town you don't normally drive in, and then you got to find your way back, especially for seniors. I mean, you have enough on the plate. Just, you want to be able to make sure you pass all the medical assessment requirements and everything else that comes with it. But it seems strange that they cannot offer this service in Port aux Basques.
They can if they mind to, but they don't. And I mean, there's a lot of seniors in our area have lost their license due to this. I had a friend there Wednesday, went in for hers, and she said she was clueless. She got where they wanted her to go, but she couldn't get back to where she's supposed to go.
So some kind of a memory test? Did they say anything?
Oh, yeah, it probably is a memory test, but I mean, my God, what kind of memory you got to have? You'd have to have a computer for it to remember to come back to those 3 streets or 4. Yeah,
and I completely plead ignorance on this one. This is the first I've heard of that sort of situation. So you can't, obviously in St. John's, you have people who grow up, they kind of know the general area and they take you around. But I just don't recall it being a part of, okay, now you have to remember which turn to make to get back to where we came from. I don't know. I stand to be corrected. Maybe this is some kind of aptitude test or a memory test that is just for seniors. I don't know. I welcome. Yeah, no, I welcome and absolutely some explanation on this one, or anyone who happens to know. I mean, off the top, I know what the general requirements are. Following and doing the usual rules of the road, how to handle the steering wheel, your indicators, and your full stop, and all the little things that come with it. But remembering where you came from and the actual route in a town you're not familiar with, I can see it. I can see it being quite a test, but I don't know how that would actually come to serve you well overall. I'm not sure. It's a new one on me.
Yeah, well, not a new one on me because it's been happening for the last 2 or 3 years.
No, and I appreciate you, bringing it to my attention. And I just haven't, you're in the news realm, and it's the first time I've actually heard of this specific issue where not only do you have to remember it, but they're going to bring you to a different town, a couple hours away from Port aux Basques to Stephenville to do the test. Are they doing the test only because that's where they do the test? Like, is the option available at all in Port aux Basques?
I don't think they did it before. This is something new.
Yeah,
But,
it's new to me, that's for sure. But you say, like, with the last couple of years, seniors have been losing or failing their tests because of it. It seems unusual. I'm going to leave it there and ask for someone with more information, even directly from transportation, or Service NL, I think it would be. Well, it's not even Service NL anymore. They keep changing the portfolios. But Government Services, I think it's called now, the Department of... that the DMV or the motor registration falls under. So I welcome anyone with the department to clarify that for me, whether or not remembering the route that you came is part of the test. I mean, as I said, it could make sense in an aptitude way or, in a safety way so that you do remember certain things. But there's lots of people who are in strange towns for the first time who wouldn't remember how to get back from where they came. That would be normal for anybody to have a problem with. So I don't know how that would be part of a driving test.
And also, I mean, there's lights in Stephenville. There's no lights in Port of Bath.
Yes. Another good point.
Right?
Unless you can sign something that says you're never going to drive anywhere other than Port of Bath, which you're not going to do that.
Just want to take your car and sell it.
Exactly.
I'm 84 years old, and I drive. I never ever had a ticket, never ever had an accident.
Yeah. And so you did this test, did you, in Stephenville?
No, not yet, but mine is coming, I'd say.
Okay, so you haven't been told yet that you have to?
Oh, yes, everybody that, well, like if you don't pass at the doctor's office, because they give you, like, say, you got to remember 3 words, you got to draw a house, you got to draw a box, you got to say your alphabet backwards. You're back in kindergarten.
Yeah, the medical assessment, I mean, you can actually do the medical assessment virtually now. They have that option, believe it or not, but... it's new
but,
on
I mean,
me.
you don't, nothing like that onto your paper that you get from motor registration. It's just ask you questions.
Yeah. Yep,
like,
and you tick the boxes.
And I'm also going to call Michael King.
Sure, your MHA, Liberal MHA for Burgeo Lapoil.
I am.
Yes.
I'm going to fight this. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, so I'm hoping I'm going to get the grease.
Yeah, no pun intended, hey? That's a great analogy. And I welcome Michael. He was on the program last week as your MHA to fill me in, or if he has any information on this and the rationale for it. Again, I'm going to plead ignorance. It seems a little bit over the top, but there may be a perfectly good explanation for it. I'm not sure. Do you have a date for your test yet?
No.
Okay.
I won't be 85 until November.
Okay. Well, you've certainly put it out there this morning, and that is exactly what this program is for, all about. So I appreciate that. Let's hope, we can just get some...
I also think that we have to go to Stephenville to get our picture taken for our driver's license. I'm not sure, but I know some people have went in there to get their picture taken for your driver's license.
It just feels like there has to be options, in this day and age.
Terrible.
For those couple hours, instead of having to drive back and forth, all the virtual age and everything else they can do with, transferring photos and all that sort of thing. There has to be some accommodation here. So I look forward to a little bit more information on this, either from callers who have been through it, have some experience with it, or as you said, your MHA, maybe Michael can shed some light on this, or anyone from government in the Department of Government Services who may have, can just explain it. I'm open to an explanation. Off the top of my head, it seems a little odd. I guess they're going to memory and that sort of thing. But when you're in a strange town and traffic lights that you don't normally see, and maybe it's a way of preparing, I don't know. But at 84, you're not going any further than probably my mother does. And my mom's 92, and she still drives, and she's a very good driver. But she doesn't go, she's not up on the outer ring. She's... The short streets around her neighborhood, not usually at night, down to church, down to bingo, the usual, right? But I can't imagine if they told her she had to go to Gander and learn how to drive out there for a couple of hours.
That's right. And now we're going up this street, that street, that street. Now turn around, go back the same way you came. Can't do it. I would pass my keys over right away. Here you go.
Now, on the other hand, if it's straightforward, some people might say if you can't do it, then maybe that's a sign. I don't know. Again, I look for someone who, if it's just a straightaway and you have problems remembering, maybe that's it. But again, I would think the rules of the road are what they're looking for. But stranger things. I can understand the aptitude when you're up to seniors. We have all seen, unfortunately, some tragic accidents that occur. I mean, there's a percentage that are going to occur with older people who are driving. Some of them some people maybe should not be. But it's hard to, have that conversation with your mom or your dad or whatever and take away that independence, So I see both sides of it, but I welcome anyone with something a little bit more official that can just give me the rationale and we can pass it on to everyone, including yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we got streets in Port of Bath. You could go up this one, down that one, go over that one. Mm-hmm. Like, why not do it here where you're used to your town?
I just remember
somewhere strange where...
I just remember I was in Port of Bath to get the ferry a couple of years ago, and this was after they changed the ramp to the ferry, and I got lost in Port of Bath. So ironically enough, just a few minutes, I had to go, okay, can't go down that road, over that road. How do I get back? Because you can't just areas where you can't see the ferry. And I'll be honest, I don't normally drive through Port of Bath proper. A lot of people, unfortunately, because it's great for tourism when drivers do go through. But and that was a big hullabaloo, of course, because it took away tourism from it when the road bypassed the town. But in any event, I got lost for a couple minutes only because I don't normally drive there, as you would experience if you had to do your test in Stephenville.
That's right. If they took you on one street, go right up to that street, now turn around and go back, that's fine.
Yep.
But to tell you to go back to 3 or 4 streets that you just came through, and you're nervous as it is.
Absolutely. It is, because the last thing you want is to make a mistake. So there's that on your mind as well. Next thing you know, you're down in Kippen somewhere. Look, I appreciate... Pardon?
If it takes my license, just well for me sit in chair and wait for me time to die.
Oh my gosh! Well, let's not.
Go.
Let's not have that happen.
No.
We get to that level. Let's get an explanation as to why this is, because sometimes just understanding the rationale can make it a little bit more, digestible, if you will, for lack of a better word. Caller, thanks for the information, and I welcome anyone. I know there are lots of people in this same boat, so let's hear from others.
Serious.
Yeah, let's hear from others as well as anyone official who can just give us a little rundown. I'm sure there's, we can put out calls, to Safety NL and government, of course, just for an explanation. And I'm sure they're listening. So if we don't hear anything, we'll rattle their cage and see if we can get someone on to explain it.
Okay, love. Thank you very much.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go to line number 3 and Patrice Gordon with Child Care Now. And of course, on this occasion of Early Childhood Educators Week, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you for this Monday?
I'm well, thank you, and very appreciative to early childhood educators across the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Mm-hmm. And Child Care Now, Newfoundland and Labrador would like to say just our heartfelt appreciation, and just to say to early childhood educators, just keep on fighting the fight, and we know you're in it because this is what you love to do. You're all professionals, and we appreciate the work that you do every day, showing up for children and their families. And Child Care Now, Newfoundland and Labrador will continue to advocate for the sector and for early childhood educators.
Patrice, we know that you had some issues. I remember you were there with our VOCM crew in the lobby of Confederation Building during the budget, and not exactly that pleased with the outcome. Disappointed no funding was set aside specifically to address some of your main concerns. Have you had occasion to, drill down with the government and representatives there onto, any kind of consolation or anything in the offing?
Not since the budget, but we have been sending out correspondence anyway, trying to get meetings. We've been meeting with other officials. We met last week with MP Tom Osborne, mm-hmm. and we continue to seek dialogue with members of Parliament, members of the House of Assemblies, government, opposition. We continue to seek audience with them to just drive home the importance of early childhood educators and the work that we do. So we're still hopeful, we're not giving up. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease, as your previous caller said, and we're going to continue to squeak.
I know that, well, what would be the number one now? I mean, obviously, higher wages for everybody, but what are the other issues that, just to remind the listeners, certainly they were listed. There was a raft of them that day, and I can't think of all of them, but I certainly know, I recall sick leave being an issue, pension benefits, and as I mentioned, higher wages. Just remind us, I know there's a discrepancy between what some people make and others make, but what's the wage right now, and where do you want it to be?
The wage is dependent on the level of qualification and the years of service. So while we'd like to see improvement in that, we'd like to see an increase in wages. We haven't had an increase in wages since the wage grid was implemented in 2021. So that's now 5 years since any early childhood educator has seen a significant increase in salary, apart from improving their certification. We're asking for a compensation package, which is inclusive of 10 paid sick days, a defined benefit pension plan, and an improvement to our medical benefits plan. There is no compromise in our eyes because we have to show up every day, and these are things that are necessary for us to carry out the work that we do. We don't want the government to give us more salary or an increase in wages or a pension benefits plan. We want all three things. We're asking them to give the ECEs all three of these things. We need a package, not options.
Yeah, and is there any indication that there will be a package as opposed to... So when you say package versus options, I just want to understand exactly what you mean by that.
We don't want an increase in wages or a pension plan or medical benefits. We want all three.
Yeah. Is it... how has the reception been to that?
Well, we haven't received a response to indicate anything at all. So there was nothing at all in the budget. All we have seen is the implementation of a steering committee, which they're going to ask the steering committee to choose one, which is what that's the indication we're getting from what the minister keeps saying, that we want to know what is important to ECEs. All three things are important. ECEs have been in the field for decades without any benefits at all. We have the wage grade. Now we want to see improvements in the wage grade. We want to see an increase in salary that we haven't seen in 5 years. We have a medical benefits plan, but it's not adequate. So we want them to look into that and see how they can give us an adequate medical benefits plan. And there are ECEs in the sector that have been working for decades that I keep saying that do not know how they're going to retire. People need to retire in their old age and they need to retire with it in dignity. And ECEs cannot do that at the moment because there's nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, and I mean, even those retirements, that leaves a gap, a massive gap at the lower end, whether it's recruitment or retention. I mean, look, it's such crucial work for the growth and development of children. I can't, in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking we're talking about money and pension and benefits and all the rest, and it gets bogged down in government, but we forget sometimes who is the most affected. If you don't have good quality, you have to properly compensate people for this crucial work. The kids are sponges, and it's not just the parents. I always say, like, the teacher in school is the third parent. They're seeing your kids more than you are throughout the day, most likely, especially if people work in 2 or 3 jobs. And then the early childhood educators are the same thing. They are the ones sort of melding or molding the minds when we're not around. And early on, it's so crucial, the way one little blip one way or the other. And if it's not properly, if the people who are doing it are not properly compensated, you're not getting the best, bang for your buck.
We're losing them. We're losing them. And there are so many things, a lot of things, mental health issues are coming up. And a lot of these things are from the early years because the children are being nurtured in the way they should be. Their socialization is compromised, and all of these things affect children mentally. It affects them not in the moment, but we see the repercussions later on in life. So for us to rid ourselves of all the mental health problems that we have, all the social justice problems that we have, there are so many things that are affected by quality early childhood education. And this is what we want people to understand. This is what we want people to stand up with us for. We want people to just add their voices to our voices to help the government and the powers that be to understand that early childhood educators are essential.
It essential, critical, whatever word you want to use. You know, they always say, you know, get them early, and get them early as in, you know, make sure they're on the right path at the earliest of stage, and they're surrounded by caring and the right proper morals and the kindness and all the rest of it, instead of, and we know the kids are not in that place. Many kids aren't. And so, you know, I don't know what our numbers are like. Well, just one last question on that, Patrice. So, you know, can you put a number on how many actual early childhood educators we have right now and how many we would need? Like, what's the shortfall?
The shortfall, we hear a number going around 600 and something, but we need over 3,000, and we have just a little over 2,000, I think. So we're still, and we don't know where the numbers are coming from, because they could be qualified but not in the field, because a lot of early childhood educators are now in the school system. A lot of them are with the pre-K. They're not actually with the birth to 6 group. So we are short. We are trying to get that information ourselves, but it's a little bit tricky. But I'd say we're short close to 1,000 early childhood educators.
Wow. Yeah. Those numbers, I guess sometimes the numbers don't, you know, you have to have the stats. And they don't tell the whole story. But then again, government lives on stats. So, you know, when they look at numbers and you try to say there's 1,000, boy, that's a steep hill to climb.
Yes.
So
it is a steep hill, and we continue to lose early childhood educators, and it's going to be a problem.
No, which is why
it's a problem. No one is going. It's going to worsen.
Which is why it's important your voice out there, along with others. We know they're listening. So, Patrice, let's hope that some movement can be made on this front as well. There are a lot of people, a lot of groups with hands out. But when you think about, you know, the children, their future, our future, and having them well prepared for that, their own future, you know, just having the basics, good caring and consideration and education growing up, all of those things meld the mind, you know. Like I said, they're sponges. So if they're surrounded by good people and good habits and good, you know, behavior growing up, they'll be productive members of society. Otherwise, we lose them. So this is critical work. Thank you very much for keeping this front and center.
Yes.
And don't hesitate.
Brian.
Yes, don't hesitate to call again, Patrice. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And all the best to early childhood educators this week and all weeks to come. Take care of yourselves. Take some time. Your mental health is important. Your health is important. And we really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. We all do. Thank you, Patrice. Very appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
And as you've been listening probably the last couple of weeks, we are really trying to insert ourselves with some good news into the show on a regular basis here. Try to make some time and space for any good news that's out there in the community. So if you've got a cause that you want to be promoted, get promoted here on the most listened to program in the province, this is the place to do it, and we'll take it. So we're trying to, again, pepper the show with a little bit of good news here and there. We'll have some spots blocked out just specifically for that, such as today. And I welcome to the show Janelle Lambert, the Fund Development Manager with VOCM Cares. Hello, Janelle. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. I'm well. How are you?
Grand. Nice to chat with you instead of just whizzing by your office on the way in and out of the building. So my apologies for that.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's a busy space around here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are we doing? We're expanding?
Yeah. So, Brian, you've always been a big supporter of all of our programs, but are you familiar with our Buddy Bear program?
I have heard of it, and I know it's in conjunction with the Firefighters Association, but I'll let you take the reins.
Yeah. So Buddy Bears they're essentially a stuffed bear, a little teddy bear, and they've been riding around on the fire trucks with the St. John's Fire Association for many, many years now. So essentially, when the firefighters show up at an emergency situation, like a car accident or a structural fire, and if there are children present, they have these bears that they can give to the children to help provide a little comfort during a scary time. But this has been going on for many years around the St. John's area, and it's kind of hit this point where we believe it's time that we try to expand province-wide. So we're officially, over the next couple of months, going to try to collect enough donations and raise enough money to make that expansion happen.
Woohoo! So it was only, the metro area until now?
Yeah, and I believe, oh goodness, probably one day last summer, we made a random promotional social media post talking about the Buddy Bears and what they do, and I actually received several messages from other fire stations around the province asking how they can partake. And so we're finally at the point now where we're in a position that maybe we can make this happen. We just need a little help from the communities to raise the money.
Yeah, this is again a no-brainer. I mean, look, it's hard enough on adults in the shock of the moment, whether it's a small house fire or whether it's a car vehicle accident, kids are in the back seat. We have no idea the kind of trauma this can have on them. Like, you don't really see it like you do in an adult. It's more just confusion and curiosity, and a lot of times a lot of tears, as you said.
Absolutely.
So, there's nothing like it. Just a teddy bear. We know. We know the comfort that it brings, just simply that just stops them in their tracks, their eyes widen, and whatever it can do, to help them through these kind of situations. It's a fantastic idea, and I can only imagine other fire, departments around the province and other first responders hearing that and knowing about it. This seems like it was just a matter of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great
We're
initiative.
really excited to make this happen.
Yep. So, what else just the where's and how? How can they donate to the fund? And give us the website and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, so information in general is on VOCMcares.com, but posts are going up on all of our social media pages, including TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. So there'll be a little promotional video with the link on how to donate there. Should be a QR code going up, or reach out to us directly. If you want to send us a check in the mail, that works too.
What else we got going on in the offing? I know my mother was asking when bingo starts up again. Can you fill me in there?
September 12th.
September the 12th. Okay.
Yes. So
wow,
cards will be in stores the Monday before that.
Okay, so
we're getting that call pretty often, actually.
I'll bet. It's not popular at all. And one of these days I'm going to call some numbers. I'd love to, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, don't do that. I'll hold you to it.
Well, it's a little less hectic and mayhemless, and
it's very hectic. Those bingo machines. It's a very well maintained machine, but it is nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I was just comparing it to the unpredictability of some calls sometimes. I don't know. Maybe it's a toss-up. I'll have the way that when the time comes. But yeah, I'm in. If you find me a spot, for sub-in, I'll do that on a Saturday night. No sweat.
Done deal.
All right, Janelle, Fund Development Manager with VOCM Cares. My Monday morning tongue twisters or something else. Thanks for checking in with us on the Buddy Bears campaign. And once again, to donate, one more time.
VOCMcares.com, or check out any of our socials. The link will be going up within minutes.
Awesome. Okay, Janelle, thanks a lot, everybody. VOCM Cares. We all know how that works, so check it out online. And Janelle, I thank you again very much for making some time for the program.
Of course. Thank you, Brian.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Go right to line number 4. And Nicole, you're on the air.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. I think I see an email that we received from you earlier, and there's a lot of detail in that. And as much as I would love to read it out, I really appreciate you coming on the program. Yeah, because, obviously I can, my voice drones on and drives people nuts, so myself included. But it really helps to have, the information from the person itself and the people involved. And you are one of those people. So tell me about your situation.
Okay. So about 4 years ago, I had a heart attack, and I was going to have open heart surgery, but the surgeon basically said I would bleed out. So I ended up having stents in my heart. And from that point on, it took me 4 years until I met Dr. Lee at the Center of Health to get a heart doctor. I wasn't being monitored. My blood pressure wasn't being taken. I didn't have a family doctor. And I was hooked up to Patient Connect NL, which is what they told me to do. And it's been 2 years, and I'm still waiting for a phone call to get a family doctor. So I would go to the ER to get all my heart prescriptions filled that I needed, some of them to live, quite literally. And every time I would go to the ER, they would say to me, you can't keep coming here because it's for emergencies. And I understand that, but I don't have a family doctor. The walk-in clinics that I would go to wouldn't prescribe prescribe all of my medication because they said, we don't know your case, we don't know your history, and you have severe heart disease. And being at 45, it's a family hereditary thing, so I should have been monitored. They finally, the ER, after like 10 times of going down there to get my heart medication prescribed, they gave me a number to Dr. Lee, who has been literally my saving grace through all of this. He works at the Center of Health. And if it wasn't for him, today I still wouldn't be with a heart doctor. And I just got him a month and a half ago. And that's after 4 years of waiting for a heart doctor, which I should have had to begin with, given the situation. I've been in the CCU multiple times. I've had 5 cath labs and a stent reopened, and I still didn't have a heart doctor to call for any medication or a family doctor. So when I finally got to him, he listened, he cared, he understood. He helped me in every single way possible. And I think it's important to acknowledge that with Dr. Lee. And that's my main goal here today is, as for a walk-in clinic, he is the best one. He is the one that's going to help you get to the doctors that you need, as opposed to other walk-in clinics who, unfortunately, they look at you and they say, well, you're too complicated a case. I can't do it. So you kind of get a runaround. But when I met him, he actually did everything he was supposed to do. And I want to make sure that people understand that there are doctors out there that will help you and listen to you and that have compassion. Because sometimes I feel like we've lost that a little bit in Newfoundland when we go see the doctors.
Sorry, no, I agree. It's just we all know that not every doctor has. It's just such a hard test to know which doctors have the time and can give you that kind of care. They're all in different situations. Dr. Lee, this is, again, I always say we need more calls to properly credit the healthcare professionals who are doing their best under the circumstances that we have. And especially in your...
And he definitely is.
Yeah, and in your more complex situation... No, that's okay. I was just going to say in your more complex situation, to have that care and to know that you found your route to it is just invaluable. I can only imagine with everything that you've been through. Did you ever... was all your care and taken care of here, or did you have any connection with the Ottawa facility, or was it all...
No, I haven't yet. Now, I did have a test done, like I said, a month and a half ago. I got a doctor, and they did find something, again, wrong with my left valve, because I was having issues and, telling everybody there's something wrong, and I felt like nobody was listening. But I finally got a scan, and, my left ventricle, there's something wrong with that as well, including the stents that I have. So I am sure what they're going to do with that at this point yet. But it is very difficult in Newfoundland and Labrador to have a heart doctor and even to retain one. For being in the CCU twice and having the heart doctors I did, you think that one would follow you for the rest of that duration through your life, but they don't. You have to go and apply again for a heart doctor.
It's so important to have that.
Quite a while.
Oh, it's so important to stay with the same doctor if you can, who has the knowledge, who knows your history. It's one thing to look it up on a chart on Health Accord or my app, but it's another thing to have a doctor who personally knows what you've been through and your history. Only because of the time on the clock, Nicole, you're more than welcome to hang on after the news if you had anything else you wanted to share and more.
No, I just want to say, and I want to give Dr. Lee the credit because he is the one that helped me. He's an excellent doctor, and I would recommend him to anyone. He's honest, open, and he just gives it to you straightforward. And I appreciate that in a doctor.
I'm sure. Yep, I'm sure he appreciates that, and he's probably pretty busy, and he's probably thinking, "Oh my God," but I'm sure he appreciates every bit of it. Every single healthcare worker appreciates that when they get the personal shout out. I really appreciate the call, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line with Brian Callahan.
Go to line number 1, and Chris, you're on the air.
Yes. Hello.
How are you? Morning.
Morning. How are you doing?
Pretty good for Monday. And yourself?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Congratulations on your new job.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
I live in the West End, Brian, and seems to be somebody going around during the evenings or late in the night tearing open the garbage bags. And that's happened on a couple of occasions in my area. and it's happened around the city of St. John's. And a lot of that garbage then gets blown around the city. Well, anyways, there's not a lot can be done about it. I suppose we could put it out in the morning, I suppose. But getting back to garbage, there's a lot of it around the city of St. John's. Down around Quad Lake, I walk it from time to time. And now that regatta season is coming up, and all the young people are coming home, I think it'd be a good idea, perhaps, if we could arrange, for a bunch of us to go down there and clean up that lake. I think that'd be a great idea. What do you think?
I think it's a great... Chris, it's funny you say that. I walk the lake on a regular basis, too. I live near it. And I had this very conversation on Saturday afternoon with two people talking about, of all the cleanups around town. And there was a great one in Bowring Park. Bill Stoyles, I got your email this morning, and they had a real success with the cleanup along the Waterford River in Bowring Park over the weekend. But I'm with you. Kitty Vitty, obviously the day after the regatta, the evening of the regatta, they do a great job of cleaning it up there. They just put,
fantastic. There's no problem with that. But there's a lot around the pond,
Agreed.
Around the lake.
Yeah.
I know. I guess the southeast side of the lake, you'd probably need a boat or something to get over there because it's hard to access it. But on the northwest side of the lake, it's pretty easy to access it there with a vehicle and take all those logs and sticks and everything out of there. It looks pretty untidy.
It really
does. There's one thing else I'd like to speak about now that I got you on the line.
Yes, ma'am.
So I used to call Paddy back in the day, but kind of got out of it now since I'm getting so young in life.
You and me both.
The MOU, Brian. We're owed big time by the province of Quebec, and I don't have anything hard feelings towards the people. The people are great, but the balance of the project, I think Quebec, according to Paddy, I think the last time I spoke to him, I think they received $22 billion, while we received $2 billion. So I think the first thing needs to be done. We need to be paid at least $6 or $7 billion back, and then we need some concessions, especially if the Prime Minister is going to get on board with this. We need to get back some of our concessions that has been taken from us. The license plate factory we had, and of course Brookfield Ice Cream and a couple more. I think Canada needs to step up a little bit more to Newfoundland. I think we should have our own gas. I think that's another thing Premier VOCM should fight for, that we have our own exportation of gas out of here. Because, Brian, yourself, we got the oil coming here, and then we ship it out and then ship gas back, which I think is ludicrous. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, of course, it just seems completely counterintuitive. It's our resources going away and coming back, and we have to pay more for it. As long as we are the poorer cousin to Quebec, and we always have been, and we always will be, on population, on representation, on everything else, and as long as they hold the cards to the corridor through Quebec, whether or not we can actually put lines through. You mentioned Quebec off top, but and as far as redress goes, and getting back any of the money that we've would have been owed if the escalator clause and other things were properly put in place in hindsight back in the early 70s. That might be something, but at this point now, it's pretty clear. Quebec has made it very clear. Look, the Quebec finance minister was on doing media on the weekend, talking about, again, our desire to make the MOU better for us is only going to be met with some areas where Quebec can make it better for them. They're not going to just sit back while we make it better and there's nothing else. They have already been very clear that wherever we improve it, they will look for improvements in other areas of the MOU. So we're always going to be up against the fact that Quebec in the House of Commons is more valuable. The MPs, there's more MPs, there's more votes, and that always has to be a consideration for the Prime Minister and the federal governing party. It's one of the reasons why former prime ministers have been loath to get involved, with our dispute, and that much coveted on our end transmission line through Quebec. So, whether or not the renegotiation, if you will, now that they've pretty much said that the MOU in its state that it was when the Liberals signed it will not be going forward, they're going to be looking to tweak it. Quebec's going to want to tweak it. And again, there are still some really big hurdles to get over, not the least of which, by the way, Chris, is the border. Because before we start any discussions, I still say we need to ask Frechette now, or whoever the minister is at the time, or the Premier of Quebec, do they recognize that border? It's a problem for me. It always seems like, and not only that, it could end up being a legal thing. Chris, I'm well past the break. Sorry, I babbled on. I'll let you wrap up.
That's okay, Brian. But when you get a chance, there's a book written out there about the Gander Airport and everything like that, and how important Gander played a role during World War II. Mm-hmm. And if you could get that and just give the world a little insight on how important Gander played the role in World War II, because there's a good possibility if Gander wasn't there, that runway was the biggest one in the world at the time, and if that had not been there, there's a good possibility we could be either speaking German or Russian now. Just before I go, I just want you to check that book someday, and it's a great book. I think Charlie might have mentioned something to you about it. I think he did
too. Do you remember the title?
Wings or something like that is called. Something about wings, but I'm sure Charlie will phone you and let you know.
No, but I know you did. You're right. Charlie did mention it. I'll have another look for it, Colin. Or Chris, sorry.
Okay, all right, Brian, all the best to you.
Absolutely. You too, Chris. Thanks for the call. And I appreciate you taking the time. Don't be a stranger.
Okay,
appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Well, let's welcome to the program the rising country singer-songwriter, Paige Penny. I say rising, but I mean, you're already at quite a peak from what I hear. Paige Penny, you're on the air.
Thank you.
No, really, it's all good and positive. A couple of people I mentioned, we're going to have Paige on this morning, and we try to, these are, we're going to put this into the category of our good news segments for sure, considering the big announcement last week. What was your reaction when you heard that the Canadian Country Music Awards, the CCMAs, are coming to St. John's next year?
Oh my goodness, it was actually hilarious. The night before the announcement came out, I was actually hanging out with some fellow Canadian country musicians here in Nashville, Haley Benedict, Brock Phillips, and Jessica Hurst, and we were all talking, and the biggest thing we were talking about was how they all wanted to go to Newfoundland, and I was like, I know, it would be so amazing if they came to Newfoundland, the CCMAs, and they were like, oh, yeah, I wonder whenever that would happen, that'd be amazing. And literally we woke up the next morning to that announcement, and we all freaked out.
That's absolutely crazy. You're getting little goosebumps here, because that was just completely serendipitous timing.
It really was, and they're all Brock is from BC, Jessica's from Ontario, and Haley's from Alberta, and they have all never been to Newfoundland just because it is so far away from them, and this is their perfect opportunity to come. So I have a lot of friends who are so excited, and I'm so excited to have my friends there and host and show them around our beautiful province.
That is incredible. I'm glad I asked the question, because you never know where you could be and who you're talking to, and absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure you have that conversation a lot, though, with people. I mean, we all are so proud of the province when we're away, and there's so many people who will tell you, oh, God, I've never been there. I wish I'd love to have an excuse to go. Now you have an excuse to go.
Exactly. I write with so many Canadians in Nashville all the time, and the first thing they find out when they hear I'm a Newfie, they're like, oh my goodness, when are we doing a writing camp in Newfoundland? I need to go. So they're all pretty pumped.
That's interesting, and I'm going to open that can of worms. Do you find the term Newfie, like when you say that, is it a term of endearment, or do you find people because, it's one of those things that we find that it's okay for us to use it, but if other people use the word, we don't like it maybe sometimes? Do you find that?
Exactly. I think we're totally okay to use it. But most of the time when people call me a Newfie over here, I think they're just so proud that they know the term, so they use it. So, and it makes me smile. So
yeah, especially in the hockey realm. Anyone I've ever known, who's gone up along, played junior Ontario, or the Q or wherever, you know, and you hear oftentimes, oh, the noof is doing this, the noof is doing that. It still rubs some people the wrong way as derogatory, but, you know, I hate to open that can of worms. But look, let's completely get off that topic and talk about what you're up to these days. So this is next year. How do you plan for that in your own mind? You know, what do you want to set up now? And, you know, how do you work the timing so that whether it's a new single or whether or not what you're particularly doing at that time, touring, and, you know, wherever you happen to be, whether it's in Nashville where you split half of your time, of course. How do you plan for this now, like in your own mind with your own projects?
Yeah, so it's actually, I'm so excited that it's happening in 2027 because this year is going to be a year of a lot of releases, which I'm so pumped about. I was in the studio last week just cutting a bunch of new songs, and we're getting a lot of new music this year, which hopefully will lead to a couple nominations next year for the CCMAs in 2027. So I'm hoping we sweep up some awards next year and get some hits on the radio, baby.
Oh, that's the way it's supposed to work, isn't it? You know, when it comes home,
exactly,
comes to your neck of the woods, we got a cleaner. So yeah, so is the pressure on, so to speak?
The pressure is on, but I'm just so pumped. We were just in the studio last week recording them, and I couldn't be more happy about how they're sounding. I can't wait for y'all to hear them. So I can't wait to play them for y'all live in CCMAs 2027 because I'm sure we'll be doing some awesome shows there, and the whole town is going to come out and support our local musicians, which would be amazing.
What stage are you at now, say, with writing? Like, do you have, you know, as far as either producing, getting in the studio, putting something on a disc or on Spotify or wherever it is, and getting it on the air? Like, what can people expect from you in the near future?
Yeah, so my writing schedule, I write every day, 5 days a week. The writing grind doesn't stop. Always working with new people, but we did just record 2 new songs last week in the studio. So now, we're in this amazing, fun stage of being able to tease stuff on social media, and we're getting a lot of love over there. So that means that a song is going to come out very soon, which I can't say what date yet, but it's sooner than you think.
What can you tease us with? Can you tell us the title?
I can't tell you the title yet, but I can tell you it's a very fun summer country dance song. So
excellent.
Get your boots out, and because I'm going to be getting you guys to dance for this one.
Well, you should be. Are you going to be around when the Chicks and Keith Urban and everybody are coming to town this summer?
I'm hoping to. It looks so amazing, and they're all freaking legends, so that's going to be amazing. I'm playing Cavendish Beach Music Festival this summer in July.
Charlottetown.
So I'm getting really pumped for that.
I'm just curious, when you write, do you write alone mostly? Like, do you craft your own lyrics and your melodies, or are you always working with somebody else and playing off each other?
Yeah, we do. I do a lot of co-writing. I usually start a lot of songs in my bedroom and then bring them to my co-writers and be like, hey, what do y'all think of this? And then they jump in on it. But yeah, one of the really cool things about Nashville is the culture here is to literally write with a new person every day, or with the people you just vibe with every day. So yeah, like in a couple hours, I'm going to a writing session with some people I haven't met before, but I'm sure it'll be great. And yeah, I'm going to do that 5 times this week, and then we'll see like which my favorites are, and then that's how I choose which I want to record.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of going about it, and have that option to be able to not shop it around, but at least have so many other people, as many ears and as much other experience and talent to listen to your stuff, because you never know. I mean, obviously, more people that hear a melody, the more they can probably see it going a really original, a real good hook in there somewhere, So I guess it's a great idea, and the experience you get with working for other people can invaluable, I imagine.
Oh, yeah, it's the best. And I've definitely found my people who you'll see like similar names on my writing credits when I release things, because we've really established a sound. My producer, Matt McCartney, he was on Southern Draw and my latest single, Going for Broke, too. We write a lot together, and he's been producing my stuff. So, yeah, Awesome. It's just great to find people that you love working with. And, yeah, I'm pumped to release the new stuff.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm catching a little bit of Southern drawl myself on the phone line here, Paige. So I guess the longer you stay in one place, hey. And that's not a knock.
It's hard when people are saying y'all to you every day, like a million times a day. It's pretty contagious.
You're absolutely right. Look, I wish you nothing but the best. Where can somebody go right now to listen to your music?
Yeah, you can go to Spotify. My latest single, Going for Broke, with Zy1K is out right now. So definitely go give that a listen, and make sure you follow the social medias as well at Paige Penny.
Awesome. Paige, thanks so much. Good luck with everything. Break legs and, warming up for the big event next year. That's going to be something else. Thanks so much for making time for the program.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Let's go to line number 2, and longtime advocate and livyere in the town of Georges Brook, Milton, Manuel Ellis. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you this morning?
I'm great, bud. Thanks for making time for the program.
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Brian, I'm kind of fed up with the road from Georges Brook to Milton. It's been ongoing. And I think the previous governments failed us on it. We have 3 kilometers we can get done there now, can be done, or more, a little more. And but the problem is, we got about 2,000 or more cars a day passes through Georges Brook, Milton. And so they should. They're taxpayers. Why shouldn't they pass through? But the problem is, we got cars coming on the wrong side of the road. Now, my big question to the government is, how is those roads addressed? Are they addressed through safety, or are they addressed through politics, or whatever you want to call it? I just like to know why.
Yeah, a straight answer to that question would be in everyone's best interest. When you say addressed, you don't mean the addresses of the road. I just want to be clear. Like, you're talking about how is...
Yeah, I mean the road, but... We got to take the politics, if any, out of our roads.
Out of everything. Out of everything, man.
But we got to take it out of anything where there's safety involved. The road is really deplorable. And now I know, Brian, I drive around a lot. And I mean, I'm retired now. And I do a lot of driving. Now, have we got bad roads in this province? Yes. And have we got bad roads in the area of Claremore area? But see, the problem is Claremore is the hub too, and that's why we got so heavy a traffic. We board us right on Claremore.
Yep.
In Milton there, right?
Just north, right?
Yeah, so we board it right on, and so we should. I mean, I go to Claremore. I come down here over these roads probably 3 times a day at least.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know how those roads, like I said, is addressed. I've stressed this for a long time. It's been a few years. I've been stressing this road. And it's no different now. It's worse now. But, I mean, my voice, Brian, it seems like it's a voice in the wilderness.
Well, you're not alone. There's a lot of people feel that way about our roads, that's for sure. But as you said, you're not alone. However, there comes a point where just some level of response and consideration is acceptable, and none is not good at all.
Now, I called Mr. Pettin's office last week, and I'm sure that somebody in his office will get back to me today. At some point, I'll reach out to him. And
that's the minister, right, Manuel? Is Lloyd Parrott your MHA?
No, Craig Party.
Oh, Craig Party, right. I'm looking at the two. Right, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, but see, he being he's Minister of Finance now, but he lives in our area, but that got nothing to do, Brian, with the price of tea in China 11.
Mm-hmm.
Because the MHA lives next door to you.
Right, and should know and can't say he doesn't understand what you're talking about because he's right there.
Yes, he do understand, though. And I don't know. I'm not in his mindset, hey. I know there a while back, the government wants some input for people to put in on roads. What should be done and all that. Now, I've looked at ours now, for the past 2 years, and was nothing put in for our road. And I looked at the road work is going to be done, and I'm sure the road work is in the queue to be done. They should be done.
Well, Mr. Party is...
I'm not saying that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying other people's roads. Yes, they should be done. But, Brian, we got such a heavy traffic area, and what are we supposed to do? I mean, do I go on the other side of the road? Yes. But what choice do I have? I beat my car up, or... I mean, we got people with stuff broke out of their cars and everything, you know.
Yeah, and the fact that you might have to, get over to the other side of the road to avoid a pothole the size of, Grand Lake or something is, it's. I mean,
It's dangerous.
It is. You use your best judgment, but I mean, look, you have emergency vehicles on that road, you have buses on that road, you have people that are speeding on that road. And it's not fit for any of it. So, I've heard you're not the only one who's called about that road. Believe it or not, you've got, certainly allies on your side. But when we talk about politics, I mean, one would think, that if you have a government member, then, you're probably in better shape than somebody without a government member. Isn't that fair to say? You would assume.
Well, being fair, like, we're in the district of Alvesta. That's where we're to.
Right.
But being fair to Bonavista and areas in between, I would not want to think that, say, Brian, that because we got MHA living next door, I would not want to think that he would give us preference over everybody else. But the Department of Transportation, they're here in Carnival. They drive over this road every day, day in and day out. Last year, the minister, the last government, Elvis Lovelace, he came in and drove over the road. Fine. He drove over the road. He gave us a few crumbs. But I want you to understand, though, Brian, something that I'm not asking for a preference because Craig Purdy, or the minister of our MHA, lives in the district. I like to see the road done for safety reasons. And that's being fair to everybody, eh?
Absolutely.
And I'm sure Mr. Party, I've had conversations with Mr. Party. I had a conversation with him Friday evening on it. But I got no assurance from anybody that anything is going to be done this year with that road.
I don't see anything on the list, too. As we're talking, I'm going down through the list. I see the Random Island Causeway Bridge rehabilitation, paving sections between Random Heights and Weybridge.
I drove down there last night, Brian. That's deplorable. That's not even fit to drive over.
Well, that's on the books for this year, according to the list. Yeah,
I guarantee you, and so it should.
Yeah. So I want to give them credit where credit is due in that way. There's also replacing the culverts in Robinson's Bight there too. Only because Manuel...
That's Lloyd Parrott's district.
Right.
Brian, I'm going to reach out to the Department of Transportation. Now, we got other issues. We got an issue with the road there that flooding in heavy rain comes down the hill and it goes onto my friend's property. He's been forever trying to get something done. Mm-hmm. And he can't get nowhere with it. Not yet, anyway.
Well, every government that comes and goes has this, has this job on their hands to try to find the best places to put the patch of pavement and to fix the potholes. I mean, look, our roads, rural roads, are deplorable. Just
they are,
for the most part, and it is just coming out of the winter, and the roadwork's just getting underway, and the weather really hasn't turned perfectly yet. I mean, there may be even using some coal patch in some places, especially up in Labrador, getting flurries. So
yeah, and then he puts in the holes, Brian. That's a waste of money.
And the bags and the holes and that sort of stuff.
They got to cut this out, but they only got one machine for doing that. I think they can cut out the square and they can repave it, but the government here don't have that machine. They got her, but she's probably some part of the island, eh?
Yeah, Manuel, I got to get off to the news, but I'll.
Yes, and I appreciate giving me the time. I will. I is going to stay with it. Brian, if someone took some pictures, would it be okay to email it to VOCM?
Yes, so do it. Yeah, either Open Line and VOCM is a great, easy one, and then we'll forward it on to the newsroom. Absolutely, nothing tells a picture. Nothing tells a story like a picture.
No, but I'll tell you now, pictures don't lie.
Nope, every picture tells a story is what I meant to say, and I can quote Rod Stewart there.
You have a beautiful day, and I thank you for the opportunity. And if something happens, I'll call you back.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Right to line number 3, and Ramona, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning. Before I comment on the topic I called about, I just want to comment on your last caller. I can't believe we're still talking about stigma toward mental health. When we were taught about mental health, we were taught about the stigma, and I was much younger then, and I thought in my own mind, well, people don't think like that now.
Wow.
Was I ever wrong?
Yeah, they do.
Anyway,
and it's one of those things that you think, it's one of those things you think is going away. We're evolving as human beings away from certain things, but nope, not away from stigma and not away from the meanness and the hatred and the division.
I know.
Which we're seeing out west and, potentially in Quebec again, referendums all, Anyway, your comments, sorry.
Exactly, yeah. As far as I'm concerned, this movement in Alberta are the same leaders that tried to overtake Ottawa. And there's another attack on our democracy, as far as I'm concerned.
When you say the same people who tried to take over Ottawa, are you talking about the trucking, the convoy and all that sort of thing? Or? Okay.
Yes, yeah. It's a very big concern. And I think it's the same leaders, and I would say to the good people, the good, hard-working, decent people, you have the power to overcome the attack on our democracy. It's very troubling what's going on.
It is. I think we have to probably appreciate that. I haven't lived in Alberta for a long period of time, but I have plenty of friends who have, and we talk all the time about these sorts of things and how it is a different dynamic. There's no question about that. And now we have, NDP leader Naheed Nenshi is calling for leaders across, all political parties to get on side with the Stay in Canada movement. But there's a frustration there that goes deep-rooted, and it's back, certainly hyper deep-rooted during the Justin Trudeau leadership as when he was Prime Minister of Canada, because it really, the switch was flipped, to green, and that was a slap across the face to all the industries that are ongoing, the fossil fuel, of course, in Alberta, but moving away from it as quick as we did, and not seeming to have an appreciation for Alberta and its grassroots and the conservative type of grassroots movement that's always been there, and trying to win that over and then losing it with the kind of stance he had on carbon and on carbon tax and other knocks to the fossil fuel industry, taken quite personally in Alberta. And I think that's when the seeds, there were always seeds, but I think they really started to take root at that point. And now it's up to Prime Minister Carney to see if he can reverse some of it, and calling it an essential part of the country. And Alberta's Premier, Daniel Smith, just walking that line,
Yes, exactly, and it's those leaders. They see the weakness, when we separate. We all know that when we stick together, we're stronger, and if we lose our democracy, there's no turning back, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just concerned about it. It's a frightening time.
It's hard to believe, isn't it? In your mind's eye, you try to picture removing Alberta from Canada. It's a movement that has strength, but exactly how much strength remains to be seen. If you look at voters' list irregularities, if you want to call them that, or leaking of voters' lists, doesn't help the cause, the credibility, and the ultimate validity of any vote that's held, whether or not it's a vote to decide whether or not to have a referendum on a referendum, as they say. And the thing is, it's being dragged out a bit. Some people would say it's just being dragged out, and that's going to cause more division. Others say this will be like the Band-Aid. We'll just do it this way, get it done, have the vote, and move on. But again, there's just so much uncertainty, and then there's the First Nations aspect to all of this, which is why they're doing it the way they are, because currently the Constitution would have, you would have to have that duty to consult. So instead, this is a roundabout way of getting around that,
Exactly, and just see what's going on in the States. It's enough to wake us up and see what's going to happen. They thought everything was going to be rosy once Trump got in. It could be. Yeah. It's just they're pulling the wool over our eyes. There's nothing perfect in this world, and there's always going to be. We can rally, we can write letters, we can call open line. That will be gone.
Never. I will say, Ramona, though, and it's troubling to see the overtures, back and forth between the separatist groups and the United States and people in positions of power. They're just licking their chops, when you have a president who is kind of like suggesting this anyway. You almost picture him sitting back and saying, "Oh, they're going to do it for us. Mm-hmm. They'll break up the country for us, and then we can just..."
Exactly. That's what they're up to.
It feels that way. I'm not in the Oval Office, and thank God.
It's troubling. It's really troubling. I found it really upsetting.
Yeah, there's a frustration out there that, having not lived there, I can't fully appreciate. But there's also one that suggests that, Canada, the way it is, this could be a blip. This could be something serious. Who knows? But I just have a lot of questions about the validity of all of this, the voters list, the voting, the process, how it's all going to play out, and the Premier's attempts to try to, thread that needle, walk the line, whatever you want to call it. But Ramona,
they have the ways and means.
Pardon?
They seem to have the ways and means to get their own way.
Yeah, and against the backdrop of all of this, the talk of the pipeline through British Columbia. I mean, the Western premiers are meeting this week, today, I believe, in the midst of all of this backdrop. And then you wonder, if you have this kind of uncertainty in that jurisdiction, where you're trying to get investors on board, big-time money, with all investors want, business wants, is certainty. And this isn't certainty by any stretch of the imagination. No. So you can talk carbon capture, and you can talk pathways, and you can talk pipelines, but you got to lure a proponent who's willing to put up the cash and the investment, and then the other investors that need to come on board to get it done. And right now, all they see is a cesspool of uncertainty. That's all. To me, anyway, if I'm an investor, I'm holding my fire until I see what happens.
Yeah, the only way is for the voters, the good voters. There's a lot of them out there, and they're being misled, as they had been misled in the States, and it's happening here. So they need to get out and vote and protect our democracy.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. Anyone who believes in Canada should get a vote. And who knows? Maybe they'll make a national vote out of it. Maybe they'll open it up to the rest of the country and say, "Do you think Alberta should leave?" Maybe there's maybe there's room for that as well. I don't know.
There's always hope, I guess.
There's always hope. Thank goodness for that, Ramona. I appreciate that last note. We're trying to promote some good news here on the show more often, and that's a great note to leave it on. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Ramona. I appreciate your contribution. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
This is the best of VOCM Open Line.
Go to right to line number 1, and the president and CEO of Safety NL, Sean Kelly, you're on the air.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hey, man. It's good to hear from you. Long time no talk.
Yes, for sure.
So thanks for being available. This is directly, in connection to a call we had earlier from a senior in Port aux Basques, who was talking about that, drivers there, seniors were, and not just seniors, but others, for their driving tests were being, they have to do them in Stephenville. So basically they get away to Stephenville, and that's where they do their driver tests. And she made a specific reference to having to remember the route they took to come back, and that was part of the test. Is that I don't know if how much we can get into the weeds here, but is that a normal sort of process, and what would be the rationale behind it?
I can't speak to what motor vehicle does with their testing, but when we do private lessons with seniors, then we include a memory part of it, just to see how a driver reacts to trying to remember a route. And it doesn't have to be too complicated, just a basic route back to a location they'd be familiar with. So it doesn't have to be the route they just took. It could be, okay, so we're here. Can you show me, can you take me to your pharmacy from here? Can you take me to your drugstore where you go? Can you take me back to your home? Just to see if they can remember the route. And, of course, the rationale is, as we get older, we start to encounter, some of us anyway, start to encounter memory problems.
Yeah,
so that can affect your driving. And I'm certainly one of those.
Me too. I guess it's about distraction. I don't need to tell you about that, but obviously you preach that.
Yeah, it's a good part of it. I mean, distracted driving is a lot of the problems that we see out there now.
So I guess the memory part would be the cognition sort of thing, just a general good cognition that's in working order. You mentioned, take me to the pharmacy you normally go to. Her point was that she's never driven in Stephenville. She's not from there. And
right.
even having to be taken to another area to do the test, is that unusual? I mean, I know that you prepare the drivers for the test. You don't do them yourself, but I'm sure you have enough information that you can give them, like a background on here's what to expect. Is that sort of something that you tell them to expect?
Yeah, well, what we prepare them for is to, be aware of the rules of the road, not necessarily for the test itself. Our mantra is basically we teach safety, and in the process you get a license. So we're not particularly emphasizing getting through a test. So we don't concern ourselves with what route the driving examiners might take, but that whichever route they take, our drivers can do it safely. So that's our primary concern. So for that, we don't do assessments, for instance, either of medical conditions or medical suitability. So whether your eyesight is good enough for your memory or your hand-eye coordination or anything like that, we don't do any of those kinds of assessments. That's for medical professionals. We focus on, how well do you know the rules of the road, and how well do you control the car.
Yeah, and I imagine you're flat out with student drivers right now as it gets near the end of high school year and the summer's coming on and a lot of graduates are turning the 17, from 16 to 17. Do you have anything specific, though, just for seniors? Like, do you have a program that's specific to them, or is it a general one across the board?
Well, we have a couple of things. We have a contract now exclusively with the Miller Center where we help out with with their assessments of people who have had medical problems, whether it be a loss of a limb or poor eyesight or a stroke or something of that nature. Strokes can affect memory and cognitive ability as well, and may not always be as obvious as people think. So sometimes we even get family members saying, look, I'm concerned about my mom or dad and their ability to drive. The doctor says it's okay, but, when we get in the car with them, we're really nervous. Can you do an assessment? So we'll do that. But with the Miller Center, we provide a car, and we provide the only car really in the among all the driving schools that have control and hand control and foot controls. So specifically geared up for people, for instance, who may be missing a foot, diabetes patients, for instance, who now have just say a left foot and have to get used to driving with a left foot on the brake and the gas. So we have devices that we install in the car for that, and we do those assessments regularly. We don't do the medical part of it. There's somebody from the Miller Center joins our driver, but our driver we have a dual braking system, so there's a brake on the passenger side too, and so that our driver our instructor can stop the car if necessary, if you're in an emergency or an urgent situation where he needs to apply the brake. So we do that. We also have been doing more refresher courses for what we call experienced drivers. We don't necessarily mean all seniors. Could be of any age that wants a refresher. Sure. Mm-hmm. For instance, there's people coming into town who never experienced roundabouts before. So we'll get calls saying, listen, I have no idea what to do with these things. Mm-hmm. Can you take me out for a while and show me how to do that? So we will do that. And we also, and that's mostly through our private lessons, and we will do assessments We get people calling us as well. This is particularly seniors who get a letter from motor vehicle saying we need you to do an assessment of your driving before we can reissue your license. So they will call us and say, I've got this letter, what can I do about it? And we'll take them out for a private lesson. We'll do an assessment of their driving skills, probably 2 or 3 lessons just to make sure that we cover everything. And then we'll do a written report back to motor vehicle with what we find in the assessment. So not necessarily saying pass or fail, but saying, they were good at this, they were strong at that, they need a little bit of work on this or a little bit of work on that,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I imagine roundabouts are way up their top 10 these days. Do you get specific calls just like tell me how to do it or put me in a car and show me how to? At least people are reaching out to learn. That must be at least somewhat gratifying.
Absolutely, yeah. So they want to do it right, and I mean, they're intimidating when you first come across them. I remember the first one I ever drove into was up in Dartmouth.
Me
that
too.
Was a large one.
The one in Bedford.
I was trying to. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I was driving all over the place trying to get off of that to go to Petty Harbor, and not Petty Harbor, Peggy's Cove.
Yep.
And I was, so that was the first time doing it. Nobody ever showed me these things, and I wasn't aware of it. So we're getting that here in Newfoundland as well, because these things are cropping up everywhere.
That's funny.
They're much smaller.
We've known each other a long time. There you go. We have that in common. That's the first time I ever entered a roundabout too, and I was on my way down to the Annapolis Valley. So I made it through it, but I was like, what the hell was that? And then I learned from watching National Lampoon's European Vacation as Chevy Chase went around it for 10 hours or something like that. One last thing before
we got in common.
Oh yeah, well there you go. Yeah, I'm sure there's more, but but last thing I just wanted to ask you, and this is something that always comes up. People will say, okay, well I'll go through the course because I get a break on my insurance. How does that work?
Yeah, well, basically, when you go through a course like ours, you get a certificate at the end of it. You have to, first of all, you have to do what's called the Graduated Driver Licensing Program. And that's a program that is approved by the provincial government. Not all the driving schools are teaching that, so you need to be aware of that. We are, and several of the other larger ones, Young Drivers, A+, some others like that, and many of the smaller ones are teaching that too. And those who are teaching that course are listed on the provincial government's website. So if the company is listed there, they're teaching that course. If they're not listed, they're not teaching that course, or they're not approved yet to teach that course. So the insurance companies are looking for evidence that you've completed that course specifically. And so that course involves 25 hours in a classroom and 10 hours in a car with us. We encourage drivers to practice with family members or relatives or somebody they know who can loan them a car and an experienced driver to take them out. And if you can get through that course, then you can, when you get your insurance, you show them the certificate for that. And they will put you into a category that says, you have, for instance, they will give you a rate that says, we're basing this on you having 3 years experience because you did the course.
Right.
So you're not saying, here's the rate you get because you did the course, but you did a course, so we're going to contribute. We're going to measure that by saying, we equate that to 3 years of driving or 2 years of driving or whatever that is. And that's the rate they will give you. So you get a break on your insurance. You can also do the driver's test 8 months earlier or 8 months after you get your permit. Sorry, not earlier. 8 months after you get your permit as opposed to a year if you don't do the course. So that's the carrots.
Yes, and of course, driving is just one aspect of Safety NL's good work. And I'm coming right up to the news. Sean, look, I really appreciate you making time for the show today. Important info, but it was all came at us all at the end of the show, and a lot of it. So look, the best place, where's and when's. How can people get a hold of Safety NL?
Well, you can go to our website, safetynl.ca, and all of our courses and all of our information is listed there. We've got a Facebook page as well. We've got an 800 line, 1-877-754-2010. So that's listed on the website as well. I don't expect anybody to remember that now. But yeah, you can reach us. The easiest way is on our website or call our line directly. Talk to any of our staff here, and we'll give you as much information as we can.
Great stuff. Thanks for making time, and great talking to you. Take care. See you soon.
Yes, you too. Take care.
Take Sean. Bye. Sean Kelly, President and CEO of Safety NL, concludes the show for today. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate all of your participation. You know what to do. Drive safely, arrive alive. VOCM cares.